The first problem we have, oh, there it goes. Okay. Negative 3x minus 2y minus 5z equals 15. And I would write this down with me. Negative 6x plus 2y plus 4z equals 14. And 12x plus 2y plus z equals negative 34. Okay. These are three variable equations, which obviously there's three variables here. The first thing you should always do on this is label the equations. So like this will be equation 1, this will be equation 2, and this will be equation 3. Okay, that just makes it easy so that when I'm saying like, okay, we're going to pull equation 1 and 2, we know exactly which ones we're talking about. And then we have to choose which variable to eliminate. And it doesn't matter which one you choose. So we could choose our x's, we could choose our y's, we could choose our z's, just as long as you have to stick with it. Once you choose a variable, you have to stick with it. Now, just looking at these equations here, I noticed that all of those y's, they're all 2y. One's a negative, but the other two are positive. So that's what I'm going to choose to eliminate. I'm going to eliminate y's because that looks like it's going to be our easiest thing here. If you went through this problem and you chose to eliminate x's, you'll end up at the same, you'll end up at the same answer. So it does not matter what you choose to eliminate. But we chose y's, so we have to stick with y's. Okay. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to eliminate the y variable from two of these equations. So I'm just going to put equation 1 and 2 together. And I'm just going to rewrite these. So this will be negative 3x minus 2y minus 5z equals 15. And negative 6x plus 2y plus 4z equals 14. And notice here, this one is easier for us because we don't even have to multiply by anything. We don't have to like multiply the top by 2 or anything because right off the bat, these two y's are just going to cancel out. Okay, which is really nice for us. If that ever happens, that's very nice. That's the variable you want to pick. So now we're left with negative 9x. Negative 5z plus 4z is negative 1z, or you could just put z there. It doesn't matter. And that equals 29. And I'm just going to call this equation number 4. Okay, is there any questions at all to write there? You're welcome to type them in the chat. I have it open, or you could just talk to me. Are we all good to write there?
So does that replace 1 and 2, or is that now a separate equation?
It's a separate equation. So it doesn't replace 1 and 2. It's a separate equation that we're going to end up working with in just a minute. Good question. Any other questions?
How do you know what equations to use? Like, how do you know which ones to choose, like, as you get further through the problem?
So you have to use 1, 2, and 3 at some point. So you have to use all of them, so it really doesn't matter which ones you choose. I chose number 1 and number 2 to start with because these are opposite signs here. Okay, but now since I've used 1 and 2, we haven't used 3 yet. I have to use 3 now. So we're going to end up using equation 3 also. So you end up using all of them regardless. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so now, like Maddie just said, so we went through 1 and 2. Now we have to use equation 3 also, and I have to use it with either equation 1 or equation 2. Doesn't matter which one. I'm going to choose equation 1 since these will be opposite signs again between these two. Okay, so now I'm going to do 3 and 1. So equation 1, that's negative 3x minus 2y minus 5z equals 15, and 12x plus 2y plus z equals negative 34. Okay. Now here, same exact thing as before, the two y's are going to cancel out. And then in the example I'm going to do next, they don't cancel out so easily. And now we can just add these. So negative 3x plus 12x, that's 9x. Negative 5z plus z, that's negative 4z. And 15 minus 34 is negative 19. And I'm going to call this one equation number 5. Now notice here that these both have, so they both have an x variable and they both have a z variable. We did that on purpose. That's why we eliminated the y's, so it makes sense that we only have an x and a z variable here. Any questions at all to that point? Okay, once we're here, this is where we're just going to put equations 4 and 5 together. So we have negative 9x minus 1z equals 29. And we have 9x minus 4z equals negative 19. And then this stuff is exactly like 5.1. Right? Two variable equations. So we're solving now. We go back to what we did last time, which is why it's important that you understand what we did last time, because you're going to end up, we have to do it again. Which in this one, those 9x's just cancel. And we're left with negative 1z minus 4z is negative 5z. 29 minus 19 is 10. And then we can solve for z pretty easily at this point. Just divide by negative 5. We get z equals negative 2. Is there any questions? We're not done, but is there any questions at all to this point? Okay. Once you solve for one of the variables, this starts to break down more like quicker for us at this point, because now we're just like plugging and chugging essentially. So we need to plug z into either equation 4 or equation 5 to solve for x. It does not matter which one. Both of us are going to give us the same x. I'm just going to choose equation 4. So this is going to be negative 9x minus 1 times z, which is negative 2, equals 29, which that's negative 9x. Negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2, equals 29. And then this should be an equation we know how to solve. Subtract that 2. Negative 9x equals 27. Divide by negative 9. So x equals negative 3. Okay, so we have two of our variables. These are 3 variable equations, so we just need to solve for all 3 of them. The last thing we're going to do here is we're going to take the z variable, and we're going to take the x variable, and we're going to plug them into equations 1, 2, or 3. Does not matter which one, just has to be 1, 2, or 3, because those are the ones that have y's in there. If we did equation 4 or 5, it's not going to help us with anything. Doesn't matter which one we choose. I'm just going to choose equation 1. So this is going to be negative 3 times x, so times negative 3, minus 2y, minus 5 times z, which is negative 2, and that equals 15. And then we can solve this equation. So -3 times -3, that's a positive 9. -2y. -5 times -2 is a positive 10. That's still 15. 9 plus 10 is 19. So this is 19 minus 2y equals 15. Subtract the 19 over. So you get -2y equals -4. Divide by -2. So y equals 2. Okay, once you have solved for all 3 variables, you're done. The last thing you have to do is just write these in alphabetical order. I can't spell. Alphabetical order. So it's going to be x, comma, y, comma, z. And make sure you put parentheses around it. So this is going to be our x variable is -3, y equals 2, and z equaled -2. This is our answer. So that means, because like these equations up here are planes, so that means that each of these planes are crossing at the point -3, 2, -2. If we're in like a 3D space here. Any questions at all with that? I know it's kind of tedious. That's why I'm saying be very careful with your work. Write it out, be as organized as possible. I don't know if you can see my camera, but when I did this, I took an entire page to do this. It is completely fine to take an entire page like per problem for this. Okay, questions with that one? Okay, let's do one more. So this one, if we have -5x minus 6z equals -17. We have 4x plus 2y plus z equals -9. And we have 3x plus 3y minus z equals -16. So notice here, this one's kind of weird because we're missing something right here. We're missing a y, right? There's no y there. So technically, I guess you could put a 0y if you wanted to. Or this actually, like, it eliminates a step in this for us. And I'm doing this problem because there's a couple like this on your homework. But let's just start at the beginning, like we did the other one. We're going to start by naming these equations 1, 2, and 3. Now, when there's a variable that is gone, that is the variable that we are going to eliminate. So since we do not have a y here, that means that we are going to choose to eliminate the y's. Okay. Which the first equation, it's already eliminated for us. So this tells us exactly which equations to look at. We're not even going to bother with equation 1 right now. We're just going to look at equation 2 and 3 because that's where our y's are at. Does that make sense? Is there questions on that part of it? So we're going to look at equation 2 and equation 3. So we have 4x plus 2y plus z equals -9. And we have 3x plus 3y minus z equals -16. Which, just looking at this, you would think like, well, why can't I just eliminate z's? Like, those look super easy. I could just add those and the z's are going to be gone, right? But if we eliminate z's, then we're stuck with an equation up here that has an x and z, and you'd be stuck with an equation down here that has an x and a y. Okay, which is not something that we want. So like I said before, once you choose a variable, you have to stick with that variable. So since we chose to eliminate y's, we have to stick with y's. And I know I eliminated y's in both of these. You can choose different variables. But so we have to eliminate y's here. Now this one's kind of weird because this is a 2y and this is a 3y. Now 3, I can't multiply that by something to get 2, or I can't multiply 2 by something to get 3. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to multiply this top equation by 3. Because if I multiply that by 3, I end up getting a 6y when I multiply that in. And I'm going to multiply the bottom equation by 2 because I end up getting a 2y when I multiply that in there. But I'm going to choose one of these to be negative because we want them to be opposite signs so that they can just cancel each other out. So let's just make the 3 negative. Okay, do you guys see that step? Is there questions on that step? So when we multiply this 3 in, we have to multiply it to all of the things in here. So negative 3 times 4, that's negative 12x. Negative 3 times 2y is negative 6. 6y, not 3y. Negative 3 times z is negative 3z. And negative 3 times negative 9 is a positive 27. Now we multiply by 2. So the 2 goes into all of these. So 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times 3y is positive 6y. 2 times negative z is negative 2z. And 2 times negative 16 is negative 32. Okay. And now when we add these together, the y's will just cancel out for us. So I'm left with negative 12x plus 6x is negative 6x. Negative 3z minus 2z is negative 5z. And 27 minus 32 is negative 5. And let's just call this equation number 4. Okay, it helps to label the equations because then you can know exactly what ones you're working with. Any questions with how we got equation 4? Okay. Now we normally would go work with like the other equation up here, but since this was already eliminated for our y, we already have 2 equations that just have x and z as their variables. So that means I'm just going to put those 2 equations together. So I'm going to do equation 1 with equation number 4. So this is going to be negative 5x minus 6z equals negative 17. And this will be negative 6x minus 5z equals negative 5. We need to eliminate one of these variables. Doesn't really matter. Let's eliminate x's. So I'm going to multiply this top equation by 6. And I'm going to multiply the bottom equation by 5. Now, when I multiply this top equation in, that's going to give me a negative 30x there. When I multiply the bottom equation, it's also going to give me a negative 30x. So I need to do one of these as a negative. So I'm just going to do the negative 6 on top. And then we actually multiply this out, so multiply to all 3 there. So negative 6 times negative 5x is positive 30x. Negative 6 times negative 6z is positive 36z. And negative 6 times negative 17 is positive 102. Do the same thing on the bottom. So we're going to multiply this into all three of these. So 5 times negative 6x is negative 30x. 5 times negative 5z is negative 25z. And 5 times negative 5 is negative 25. Now we can just add these two equations together and the x's will cancel. So these are gone. 36z minus 25z is 11z. And 102 minus 25 is 77. Now we've pretty much solved for z. I'm just going to divide by 11. And we get z equals 7. Okay, I'm going to take that and I'm going to plug it into either equation 4 or equation 1. I'm just going to choose equation 4 since it's like right there. So that's going to be negative 6x minus 5 times 7 equals negative 5, which is negative 6x minus 35 equals negative 5. 35 over. You get negative 6x equals 30. Divide by negative 6. You get x equals negative 5. When you're going through the homework here, you should always get whole numbers. If you don't get a whole number, something went wrong. You made a mistake somewhere. You need to go back and double check your work. Now we have z and we have x. So we're going to plug that into equations. It would normally be 1, 2, or 3, but this time it's just going to be 2 or 3. Since those are the only ones with y's there. Because if we plug it into equation 1, there's no y there, so there's nothing to solve for. So let's plug it into equation 2. So it's going to be 4 times negative 5 plus 2y plus z, which is 7, equals negative 9. And then we just have to solve this equation. So negative 20 plus 2y plus 7 equals negative 9. Negative 20 plus 7 is negative 13 plus 2y equals negative 9. Add the 13 over. We get 2y equals 4. So y equals 2. Okay, so then our answer here is alphabetical order. So it's going to be x, which is negative 5, 2, and 7. Okay, guys, let's be nice in the comments, please. Questions with that? Okay, that's all I have for you guys. Please don't use Photomath on this. As you're going through these, if you get decimals, you did something wrong, you need to go back and try to fix it or see where you made a mistake. Okay. And another thing, so December 4th, I know that seems kind of far away. It's not that far away. That is a hard deadline for late work, including the Unit 4 test. So as soon as, if you haven't taken the Unit 4 test, you need to contact me and we need to figure out when you can take that and get that late work in, okay? That's all I have for you guys. I will post this so that you can go back and watch it if you need to, but If you want to stay and ask questions that you maybe don't want to ask in front of everyone, that's fine. But if not, you're welcome to get off.